she and I have taught a lot together. And just by way of introduction, right after I met her, which is 14 years ago, I really liked her. So 2 weeks later, I scanned her, because I didn't want to really like her unless I could see her brain.
Yeah. Someone saying they want to see my naked brain was the best line I've ever heard. So.
And she passed. So Tana is a neurosurgical ICU nurse, which means she took care of the worst patients in the hospital, people who had gunshot wounds to their head, bad car accidents and skiing accidents. She trained and worked at Loma Linda in their level A trauma center, so she's used to working with a lot of police officers. Anyone who can deal with neurosurgeons on a day-to-day basis is special. She's also now written 10 books, including the New York Times bestseller, The Omni Diet. She has a brand new book coming out next year called The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child, which talks a bit about her story. I'm going to have her share a little bit about that today. But why don't you start on how you got interested in food? Because it's really not something they taught you in nursing school.
Oh, no. Well, I got more than most people. Is this on? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I probably got more than most people in school just because I went to Loma Linda, which is a Seventh-day Adventist school in the Blue Zone, and so they really do focus more on it than most people, most schools. But we didn't get that much. And for me, it started a long time ago because when I was growing up, I grew up, well, by the title of my book, I grew up with a lot of trauma and drama in a very difficult environment, a lot of poverty. And police officers they were people I saw frequently in my home. But for me as a child, that was a good thing. So I know for a lot of kids in my situation, that wouldn't have been a good thing. They're terrified of police officers. For me, it was a good thing. It actually was a symbol of safety. So it was a symbol of, oh, okay, now things are going to settle down. Things are going to be okay. So I grew up sort of feeling like that was important to me. And I was always waiting for the next bad thing to happen. But the constant trauma, drama, stress, lousy diet really started to attack my immune system. I got really sick at about 4 years old, which was about 2 weeks after my uncle was murdered in a drug deal. So I remember the police officers coming to my door, my mother and my grandmother just screaming, falling to the floor. I'm sort of getting lost in all that chaos. And there were many stories like that sort of went on in my childhood. And you guys see this every day. I don't need to sort of tell you about these stories. This is your daily life. But for a kid, that's very traumatic. And then at 15, I was walking down the street, Warner Boulevard in Huntington Beach, going to high school, 8:30 in the morning, and I was attacked by a big white guy in a suit who tried to drag me down an alley. I was almost raped. It was the craziest, weirdest thing. Didn't know the guy. I know everybody says, oh, it's incredible. And I will never forget that. You never forget being overpowered and attacked by someone you don't know. And because I guess you learn in those situations what defines you in a flight or fight situation, and I'm kind of a ghost psycho, rip your face off, crazy person in a fight situation. So I didn't freeze, and that saved my life. And I didn't know how to fight, but that just saved my life, just my natural instinct. And I'll never forget what the police officer said to me. I was really embarrassed when he was taking my report, and he's like, you need to tell me exactly what happened as closely as you can recall. And I was really embarrassed because 15-year-olds in those situations have really colorful language, and I was freaking out. And my mom was there, and I'm like, I can't tell you what I said. He's like, no, your mom's going to be proud of you. It saved your life. And I'll never forget what he said. At the end of it, he said, we take these reports a lot. Most people freeze, and it's never the right thing to do. A lot of women think if they don't do anything, if they don't fight, that they'll be better off, that it'll save their life. He said, we know that's not the answer. You're 15, and what you did saved your life. And I never forgot that. And it just sort of became a paradigm. It became a metaphor for my life. That I adopted this warrior mentality. So I was not a big person. I wasn't, wasn't a police officer. I didn't have a lot of power. But that became my metaphor. But then at 23, I was attacked again. It was a sucker punch I didn't see coming, and it just knocked me flat on the floor. And it was so much worse this time because it came from within my own body. It was cancer, and I didn't see it coming. Couldn't fight it. And that was just so much worse. I didn't have anyone to fight back with. And then it turned into this severe depression, and I found myself wanting to die. And so I just remember this truck driving next to me. I couldn't kill myself because my mom would, beat me into the afterlife of guilt, so I was never a person who would kill myself. But I thought if that truck hit me right now, the planet would be a better place. And I just was wasting oxygen on the planet. But somewhere through that process, I ended up just digging deep. I mean, it was not an easy thing, but I remember at some point having that same thought that I did with the police officer. I remembered his words. What you did saved your life. You fought. You have to fight. And again, I adopted that metaphor. And I just pulled myself back up. So I didn't know what to do, but at that point I started to, that was my journey into figuring out what do I do. And it was not an easy journey to figure out what do you do. There's so much misinformation out there. How do you eat right? What are the right things? Because when I went to my doctor, they had me on 9 medications at one point. They told me lifestyle nutrition didn't matter. It was genetic. Be grateful for the medications I had. I'm on 9 medications. Most of them were medications to manage the side effects of other medications. And it was a nightmare. And at one point he told me, you should go see a psychiatrist. Because it's my fault that I'm not handling this well. And that's when I went, enough is enough. I am going to take this into my own hands. And I started this journey trying to figure out what lifestyle nutrition plays in my own health. And I became my own advocate. And so nursing school was a big part of that. So that's when I decided to go into the health field. And even that was confusing. So I took about 300 hours of metabolic medicine after nursing school and started to really understand it and unravel it. And food plays a huge part. In fact, one of the biggest parts in your performance, in your cognitive function, in your physical function, in your health, in prevention, in disease prevention. So of all of our testimonials at our clinics, food gets the highest rating. We get the best testimonials from people changing their diets.
So cool. Yeah. So we did not meet by her coming to see me as a patient. Just clear on that. We think about half of the patients who come to see us as mental health patients, they're there because of their terrible diets. If you want to take one thing away from the time we spent together, food can heal your brain. So food is medicine or it's poison. And what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about N in brain, which is for nourishment. And what goes in your body becomes your body. So every cell in your body continues to make itself new throughout your life. So if you're making itself new with Jack in the Box, you're going to end up with a fast food mind and a fast food body, which is driving the epidemic of obesity, depression, suicide in our society. Pop quiz. Can I do this?
Sure. Where are 3/4 of your neurotransmitters made? Anybody know? Your gut. What organ contains 2/3 of your immune tissue? Your gut. What organ contains 10 times more cells than the total in your body?
Good.
Yep. What organ hosts a foreign legion that protects you? Sort of like you guys. What do 70% of people suffer from? Gut issues. Right.
So your gut has been called your second brain. So your microbiome, which are the bugs in your gut, you have 100 trillion of them, 10 times the number of cells you have on your whole body. And so we call them friends with benefits.
So this is Biff and Lacey, and we named them this. There's a reason for this. So when my daughter was about 8 or 9, we were trying to explain to her why I wanted her to take probiotics, why her gut bugs were really important, and we wanted her to protect her gut bugs. And as soon as I mentioned gut bugs, that she had bugs in her gut, imagine an 8 or 9-year-old child, she started screaming. So, ew, she's freaked out. So I'm like, no, these are different. They're like pets. I want you to think of them like pets. You have to take care of them. You need to feed them, you need to protect them. And we had this crazy dog at the time. He was this Schutzen 3 Shepherd from Germany who wanted to eat anyone who came near me. I had to get rid of him. But he was very protective of the family. And so I told her, I said, your bugs are a little like Hank, except that they're not quite as crazy. So we named them Biff and Lacey. I want you to think of them like Hank. I want you to feed them every day, take care of them, because they're going to protect you, kind of like Hank does. They take care of your immune system. They, unlike Hank, they're not as nuts, but they're going to like help you get through your life, help you get through your day, make you feel better. They help your brain, they help your body, and so that's what we did. We named them Biff and Lacey.
Or lactobacillus
Right.
bifidobacteria. All right, so your gut has been called the second brain. It's actually loaded with nervous tissue. It directly connects to your brain, which is why you get butterflies when you're excited or loose stools when you feel anxious, depressed, stressed, or grief.
So your gut lining is a single cell thick. So it's not very thick and it doesn't give you a lot of grace. The connection between the outside world and your internal body, that's the only layer, the only protection you have. Initial defense against invaders, and there's a lot of trouble when it breaks down. We call it leaky gut or intestinal permeability, when that one single layer is broken down. And with our crazy diet and lifestyle that we have today, it doesn't take much to break that single layer down.
So think about this. You have 30 feet from your mouth all the way to the other end. It's about 30 feet of an esophagus and stomach and intestines, and all of that is lined with just one, so it's like super thin, and they have something called tight junctions. That those tight junctions prevent the wrong things from getting inside your body, because if it gets leaky, those things get inside your body, and your body then mounts an immune system response, and all sorts of bad things happen. So here's under an electron microscope, you can actually, so here is sort of healthy, but here is where it's leaky. If anybody's had canker sores, I've had them my whole life, God bless lysine, because I don't get them on lysine. But it's like your intestinal tract, it's all of these canker sores allowing negative stuff to get inside your body.
And it's just associated, when this happens, it's associated with so many different things that people don't think about. All of these different things that people are taking medications for. Autoimmune diseases, especially things like I've had thyroid cancer multiple times, the Hashimoto's disease, so many different thyroid problems, digestive symptoms, gas, bloating, some of the obvious ones when you think about your gut, IBS, seasonal allergies. So that's one of the first things that clears up with people when we put them on our program, and pain clears up. So fibromyalgia, hormonal imbalances, chronic fatigue, mood, anxiety, depression is a big one. So when we get people's diet right, their mood gets better, depression, anxiety gets better, candida, food allergy intolerances, and headaches.
So what causes leaky gut? The number one cause is your diet. Sugar increases or decreases the tight junctions. So you're going to find out sugar is really the devil. It causes so many different problems. We already talked about inflammation, plus it's addictive. Gluten. And I know some of you think that gluten-free is craze and it's going to go away, and it's 100% of people who eat gluten. It loosens the tight junctions in your gut. So not everyone has celiac. A lot of people do, and it's potentially lethal if you get gluten with celiac, but the rest of us, it can damage your gut.
Yeah, so when you eat gluten, it causes your body to actually, because your body cannot digest it. This is why it's become such a craze, right? Your body can't digest gluten. So what happens is your body releases a chemical because it doesn't know what to do. It just sits there and won't break down. So your body will release this chemical called zonulin. Those tight junctions you talked about, it causes those tight junctions to open so that it can get through. Because it won't go down, so it goes out, and that's not good.
The same with corn, processed foods, and pesticides. So if you have 100 trillion bugs in your gut, what do pesticides kill? Bugs. And so if you're eating non-organic food, you're also eating Roundup, the most common pesticide that is sprayed virtually on all the corn, all the soy raised in the United States. Low stomach acid, so if you're taking a lot of antacids, we just want you to rethink that. Why do you have stomach acid?
So it's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole, just to put it in a metaphor that you guys can sort of get, right? So it's you're putting the Band-Aid on rather than fixing the problem. If you're taking antacids.
So stomach acid digests your food. If you're decreasing that, you're not digesting your food in as healthy way. It's a short-term fix that actually can cause a long-term problem.
Whereas the problem is you need to fix the diet, what's causing the gastric reflux to begin with.
Alcohol, drug use, many medications.
Especially NSAIDs.
And this is one of the
Advil.
reasons. You know, when we did our course together, and people would lose weight over time, and then they would flatten or gain weight, our first question to them was, did you have pain and did you take Motrin or Advil? Because it stopped their progress because it was damaging their gut.
It increases, it short-term decreases inflammation, long-term increases it.
Infections, mold, environmental toxins, chronic stress. So we're going to talk about when you were 4 years old and you found out your uncle had been murdered, stress went way up, and then within 2 weeks she's having upper and lower GIs because of the stomach problems. So chronic stress can actually change your microbiome, increase leaky gut, and give you anxiety issues, often for the rest of your life, because no one's working on fixing the problem. And then when your microbiome's not healthy, which we'll talk about. So again,
So your microbiome is 100 trillion bacteria, about 10,000 unique species of bugs in your gut. You've got 10 times the cells in your gut that you do in the entire human body. And the goal, so this sort of reminds me of what you guys are sort of aiming for, right? 85% good guys, you're always gonna have some bad guys, but you gotta be able to control them, right? So you wanna keep it low, keep the ratio low. So 85 to 15 at least.
I just got this image, I probably should.
What, okay. Now I'm scared to ask.
No, I have a clinic in Chicago.
Oh.
And the south side of Chicago is just got so
Overrun.
many problems, I guess like South Central in LA, that if the troublemakers overwhelm
Take over the city.
the population, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
So your brain is about 3 pounds, but your microbiome is about 5 pounds. It's going to be totally gross. About 60% of your stool is dead bugs. It's
Nurses
like
talk about food all the time.
psychiatrists
Get
don't.
over it.
We don't do fluids.
Body fluids 101.
I love being married to a nurse because Chloe, our daughter who's here, hello Chloe.
Oh, now he's gonna embarrass Chloe.
Not embarrassing.
What I
but-
get for being late.
But when she would throw up when she was little, I'm like, I just.
He'd walk by, pass by, and he's like, I'm so glad I'm married to a nurse. Go back to bed.
All right.
So your microbiome functions to protect your gut lining, like we just talked about, digestion, absorbs nutrients, synthesize vitamins. So vitamin K, so this is one of the reasons we don't want you taking a lot of antacids or drinking too much alkaline water. How many of you drink a lot of alkaline water? You've heard that alkaline water is really good for you. You put those expensive systems in your house. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, we got one. So I won't point you out. But those really, it's okay to drink some. Some of you do CrossFit, really intense workouts. It's okay to drink a little alkaline water when you've been under a lot of stress, or there's like occasional drinking, for reasons. When you're doing nothing but drinking alkaline water, you're decreasing stomach acid, which then makes it difficult for your body to produce vitamin K. Okay, so vitamin K is produced in your gut, and so in your intestines. And when you decrease stomach acid, you don't digest all of your food. If you don't digest all of your food because you don't have enough stomach acid, you then get bacterial overgrowth in your bowels, and you can't produce vitamin K, and you can't absorb certain minerals. So that's the reason we don't want you overwhelming your system with these antacid type products. We want you fixing the problem that started to begin with. And then detoxification.
Serotonin.
Did I miss something? Oh, neurotransmitters. That's the big one. So why don't you talk about serotonin?
So serotonin is the chemical in your body that helps you feel happy, that helps you be flexible, helps you go with the flow, help you not hold grudges. And 90% of the serotonin in your body is actually made in your gut.
Isn't that crazy?
If your gut's not right, your mood is not going to be right. And so these functions are so important. And nobody's thinking it's my gut bugs that I need to get healthy, because if I get your gut bugs healthy, your brain will be
So when people come to see us and we start focusing so much on their gut, they're a little confused. It's like, wait, I'm coming to a psychiatrist and you want me to do all this stuff for my gut, my diet? I don't understand. But it makes them feel better really fast. That's the crazy part. Within a couple weeks, they start to feel better. So.
And there's two other ways that, so how does your gut get populated? When you're delivered as a baby through your mother's birth canal, it's one of the ways the baby's intestinal tract gets populated. So if her body is not healthy, the baby's gut bacteria are not going to be healthy either. If you're born by C-section, your gut bugs are not getting populated like they normally would, and C-section babies actually have more issues. And I had no clue. My third one, Caitlin, was delivered by C-section, and here I'm a double board certified psychiatrist. I have no clue that may be why she was the most hyperactive child of the bunch.
But you can have the probiotics.
You also get them with breastfeeding, which is one of the important things about breastfeeding. And I don't know if your mom was like this, but mothers who are constantly keeping children away from the dirt, their kids' immune systems are weaker because they're not getting that rich diversity of bugs for their gut. So all of the hand sanitizers, they're actually loaded with things like parabens and phthalates that we've talked before, are just not a good idea. So if the microbiome is not healthy, you're more likely to be anxious, stressed, depressed, be diagnosed with ADHD, autism, mental fogginess, even heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and obesity.